I'll read Amazing Spider-Man Annual 16 today, a Mar-Vell milestone by Roy Sternum, with art by Junior Junior and Junior Senior. This issue is the introduction and first appearance of Captain Marbles, the real one, Monica Rambeau, and it also features her joining the Avengers at the end. Our cover here does an effective job of teasing this new character and enticing the reader to want to know more about who she is and what she can do. We have a fairly of its time opening where Peter Parker spots Monica Rambeau walking and he thinks she's really happening in a far out way. Wait, that was actually the voice of Spider-Man, wasn't it? The guy who said that in the Brady Bunch movie.
Hey, that's funny, Donna. You know, you are really happening in a far out way. How about you and me going out for a soda after school?
Christopher Daniel Barnes. That was Spider-Man. And then Spider-Man starts stalking Monica Rambeau. He thought to himself she was a looker, and now he actually decides to walk after her and follow her for that reason. It was a different time. I used to stalk a girl, well, kind of. At secondary school, there was this girl and she lived on the same street as me, so every day after school, I would follow her home. But because I had to, she lived a few doors down from me. I couldn't help it. When I was 14, 15, 16, I felt so conscious about it that when school was out, I started walking a mile in the opposite direction just so that she could get a head start. And I didn't have to so clearly be following her. Some scallywags try to mug Monica Rambeau, and she makes very short work of them. You go, girl. Spider-Man's stalking pays off because he gets to knock out one of the would-be assaultists. And then Monica blasts him with some sparkle energy powers. He deserves it. He could have at least walked a mile in the opposite direction, allowing her a head start so he wasn't so obviously following her. This leads to our dynamic reveal that this fetching female is actually a superhero. Captain Marbles, the real one, Monica Rambeau. Iconic splash page debuting this character and her design. I bet my subscribers will love this. Although here is a bit of trivia. Roy Sternum didn't like this page because the colourist used pink highlights on the costume, which he thinks made it look like a nightie or negligee, and artists would often use this page as reference. So for the first few years, she always had pink highlights when he envisioned the costume as silver. Captain Marbles, the real one, Monica Rambeau, she joins the Avengers at the end of this, and it is carried across into the Avengers. The original plan wasn't actually that Roy Sternum would be writing Avengers. He was handing her off to whoever would write that series. But then he became writer of that, so was able to continue charting her adventures. For his run, Monica is a central character, and I am not talking much about details because here's the thing. On paper and in reference, his depiction of Monica is dreadful. She is a creator's pet, She is written up at every opportunity. The series comes off sounding like it revolves only around her. However, Roy Sternum is such a good writer and such a professional. When you actually read the comics, none of that is obvious. None of it stands out or bothers you. He does it fantastically to the point where Monica isn't a problem or anything seems offensive. He executes what could sound awful. He executes it faultlessly. She eventually becomes leader of the Avengers, and you don't feel like it is a writer pushing his character or abusing the Avengers for his own ends. It's fascinating to compare Monica Rambeau and how many people like her compared to Willow and how few people like her. On paper, they have the exact same thing. A writer makes the Avengers title their book and demonstrates how their character is the best and the focus of most of the stories. Roy Sternum does it with subtlety and tact, and it's never as fucking horrid as when Willow can defeat Thor and the entire Avengers team in a page. Monica Rambeau is a character that defies a lot of expectations. She is the perfect example of a creator's pet done well. Roy Sternum barely commits a sin in the way she is handled in the Avengers. I am going on this long thing about her being a creator's pet because saying stuff like she takes over leading the Avengers sounds atrocious and selfish of a writer. The sort of thing I would normally criticise so heavily. But it is never a problem with her and Roy Sternum. We get her origin. She was a lieutenant in the Harbour Patrol in New Orleans. She aspired to be captain, but was passed over due to her gender. I did notice he made the captain black to eliminate any undercurrent of her race being a factor. This is why she assumes the captain part of her sobriquet. I will talk about her name and her connection, or lack thereof, to what came before. Monica Rambeau is Mar-Vell's second Captain Marbles, the real one. Before her was Captain Marbles, the real one, Mar-Vell. Other than the name and the star motif, there is no connection. We do explore some elements of her unknowingly taking on the legacy of a dead hero in issues of the Avengers. And she even gets her own arch-enemy who takes on the legacy of Mar-Vell's arch-enemy. That's another subtle aspect of Roy Sternum's writing. I bet some of you never even realised that Karen Gillan, on paper, is just a Phineas for Monica. Here's what I find weird. Mar-Vell died in 1981. Very iconic story. One of the best graphic novels Marvel put out. Tremendous story by Jim Starman. This comic came out in 1982. They barely left it a year before introducing a new Captain Marbles, the real one. There's obviously an element of them trying to hold on to the trademark to spite DC, but it's weird to see that sort of cynical corporate manoeuvre applied to a character that otherwise is a writer being sincere and wanting to create a lasting character of colour. Here we get Monica's origin. She was investigating a South American dictator's oil rig and the dodgy scientist he has working for him. She pretends to be a bimbo and flirt around to get a closer look at what is going on, and this eventually allows her to get close to a crazy energy machine, and she ends up destroying the crazy energy machine. But she is exposed to crazy energy science, and this is how she gets her powers. Captain Marbles, the real one, Monica Rambeau, is able to change herself into any form of energy within the electromagnetic spectrum. This makes her abilities incredibly varied, from light speed travel to practical invisibility. Altogether, it makes her very powerful. She is new to these powers now, and she cannot quite control them. And she puts on a Mardi Gras costume rather than walking around in a bathing suit. And that is the origin of her costume. Much like her name, reason for all of it. At this point in the video, I will be announcing I won't cover the downfall of this character and what she has been reduced to over the years since. With that said, I forget how long these annuals are. They're not great for reviews, to be honest. They take ages to get through. I have to make objective decisions to skip certain things. Back in the present, we continue on with Spider-Man pursuing this mysterious energy woman. And whenever Spider-Man has a problem or a question, he goes to the Fantastic Force. And when Mr. Fantasticals isn't there, and he has to put up with the Thing being unhelpful, he then goes to the next best thing, which is the Avengers. During all of this, Captain Marbles, the real one, Monica Rambeau, she also goes to these same places looking for help with controlling her powers. And I am sorry to get a bit brief with all this stuff, but in the end, the Avengers and Iron Man, they are able to help out, and Monica is more or less welcomed onto the team as a new member. This will be continued on from directly with Avengers 227. Good introduction to a character here. She is likeable and heroic. You want her to get control of her powers because she isn't acting obnoxiously or presumptuously. I don't quite get why this is Spider-Man though. It's not really a Spider-Man story. It's a Captain Marbles, the real one, Monica Rambeau, story, with Spider-Man tagging along. I like it. I tell you what, make this a Spider-Man team-up annual. That would mitigate the problem fully for me. I recommend it though. It's always nice when a character has a great first appearance. I'll give it 7 thumbs up.